I'd like to call the meeting of Norfolk County Advisory Board to order. And we will call the roll of officers first. The Secretary, Dr. Childs.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Yeah, all right. This is the roll. Avon. Bellingham. Braintree. Brookline, here. Canton. Cohasset. Dedham. Dover. Foxborough. Franklin. Holbrook. Medfield. Medway. Millis. Milton.
Here.
Needham. Norfolk. Norwood. Here. Plainville. Quincy. Here. Randolph.
Here.
Sharon.
Here.
Stoughton. Here. Walpole. Here. Wellesley. Here. Westwood.
Here.
Weymouth.
Here.
Rentham. What do we have, Bill?
Madam Clerk, 82.74% of the county represented.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Now shall all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, led by Joe Reardon, the Vice Chairman of the Advisory Board. From Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to the members, I ask that we pause for a moment and recognize the service of Officer Familia and Officer Kitt, who were killed in the line of duty or died in the line of duty this past week. The Norfolk County Advisory Board used to oversee the Norfolk County Sheriff's Office, so we are connected to law enforcement and remember them now in a brief moment of silence. Thank you. Officer Kitt was transferred from the scene in a stretcher draped with the American flag, and that flag represents all of us here today, and I ask you to join me in pledging allegiance to that flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Are we doing the 19th, or is that the right one? The minutes?
Yeah, the minutes of the 19th for you, yeah.
On the agenda, we have a need for a motion to accept the minutes of the May 19th meeting.
So moved.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Made by
Braintree.
Weymouth and Braintree. Mr. Papp and Mr. Ryan. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? It's a unanimous vote. The FY21 supplemental budget discussion and vote. Turn it over to the chairman of the, are you doing, Michelle doing presentation, or
I can do it.
Mr. Buckley?
I do like the microphone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you, as we're following along in our packet, is our FY21 fourth supplemental budget appropriation, as you saw in your packet previously and by email. There are 4 items currently contained within the supplemental budget request. First 2 originate at the Registry of Deeds, one for $40,000 to keep up with the printing of books, and another for $50,000 to replace heavy-duty shelving used in the storage room. The first 3 months of calendar year resulted in a 46% increase in the volume at the registry, which is wonderful news, over the previous 3 months of the calendar year 2020. And the tremendous uptick outpaced the resources allocated to record them. The third item is an appropriation of $35,458 for a continued upgrading in our operational software for additional system efficiencies. This body has, at the last meeting, allocated funds as directed by the Abrahams Group to continue our operational efficiencies when it comes to technology, and this is just the next step in that process. And finally, a final item is a transfer of $2,500 from unappropriated balance to cover a shortfall in the employee health insurance line item. $250,000. 250. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is a big difference. And Mr. Chairman, that is our report of what is before you.
Any questions on the supplemental budget? Mr. Polito from Dedham.
The shortfall on the health insurance, why is that so high? Do we have new employees come in, or we just unfunded it last year, or a big increase? And what would you budget next year going forward? If it's 250,000 haul this year, what's next year's budget look like?
Good evening. So to answer your question, the 200, the money that was in this for that line item, there have been a couple of things that attribute to that. One thing is when new employees come in, we pay the invoice for the health insurance a month in advance, and we don't take the 30% out of them right away. We have them pay a 4-week prepay, and we don't get that right away. So there's been a couple of new employees that have come in, and that's part of my job as HR. I usually invoice them, and I've been delayed in doing that since I've been the interim director, so some of that is late. Another factor is when people retire, they often will go on our health plan. They may have already been on our health plan, but then they'll have their family come on as well. And so we pay the 70% of that charge, and they're on the health plan to the end of their life. So sometimes we don't plan accordingly for things like this. And so there was one other thing. Can you remember what it was? Oh, so another thing is that really hit us this year is sometimes when people are out of work and they say someone goes on workers' comp, what happens is with the contracts, if you go on workers' comp and you have no time left, so you go off, what we call off payroll, the county pays 100% of your health insurance up to a year, and we definitely did not plan for that. So those are some of the factors that attribute to this.
Another question, going forward next year, how that budget can be underfunded? Going forward next year, how's it work? Well, we passed the budget last month. Are we already in the hole going next year?
No, we're not, and with some of the money that we made some changes in the budget. Some of the items that were in the capital, we had decreased the group insurance line. We bumped that back up to protect this from happening again. You're welcome.
Any other questions? A motion.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Ryan from Braintree made a motion, seconded by Avon, or whatever.
That's right.
On the motion, all in favor of the motion to approve the supplemental budget?
Aye.
Those opposed? It's unanimous vote. Thank you. Fifth item on the agenda, the Norfolk County Agricultural High School transfer, school budget transfer.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, as you saw in your packet leading up to this meeting, we have Rick Fitzpatrick here from the Aggie Business Manager, who had some explicitory letters in his packet. But the long and the short of it is, as we all know, a school committee member myself, as you all, local officials, the pandemic has radically changed what education looked like in the last 12 to 16 months. Revenues were negatively impacted by the pandemic, both food service, summer camp, farm sales, activity fees, and the like. They've availed themselves of state and federal grant funding opportunities and continue to look for improvements. Actually, forgive me, Mr. Chair. Just before we go to closeout, I was reading the slide before that. We just wanted to point out the information you were given in your packet about the reason why there is no supplemental appropriation from the Aggie at this meeting, and that's because the Aggie is waiting, because of all that volatility, to see how their books close out. There may be a need for an additional meeting in July to remedy difficulties with the closeout. We would not have you meet in person. We would request a meeting via Zoom to achieve that, barring the legislature not allowing Zoom to continue. But we felt it was important to put it in front of you as we looked at the FY21 supplementals, because there may be a need, and that need is not before you tonight. I can now move on to the transfer, and the transfer is connected, Mr. Chairman, because it is part of those efforts to close out and land the plane that is Norfolk County Agricultural High School's budget. So the school has requested a transfer of $154,686 to fund additional items in the temporary wages account. The drivers of this were unanticipated need to cover 8 teachers on family medical leave with substitutes at varying lengths of time. budget impact of $85,000, with $15,000 in other departments. Due to COVID, there was a need to fill a full-time nurse position with a budget impact of $54,000 and increased guidance salaries of $686,000. The offsets were the departure of a librarian for $56,000, the savings from the custodian on workman's comp, and the transfer of individual from food service to another department, and the position was not filled. So if you flip to the next page, you have the transfer request. This request was taken up by the Norfolk County Agricultural High School Board of Trustees and voted favorably. The Norfolk County Commissioners have voted favorably. And if the gentleman from Milton would like, you can speak to the Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee reviewed this at the last meeting, which was reaffirmed at our meeting a few moments ago, and the Finance Committee unanimously approves.
Mr. Ryan?
So I'm going to fully support this. In Braintree, we're having a real problem with our school budget where we had to lay off, I'm loud enough, where we had to lay off 6 teachers, special education teachers for math. So it's nice to see that the Aggie has the money to move around and they were able to pay for these positions. So I'm going to fully support this.
Any other questions?
Will we approve the transfer of 686?
Motion by Mr. Polito, second by Helen. Oh, no. Helen. On the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So voted. Item number 6, FY22 capital budget discussion and vote.
Mr. Chairman, last one. As you're all aware, we did have a presentation from the Abrahams Group at a previous advisory board meeting. The county, in an effort to model ourselves more after our constituent communities, has looked at changing the way we do capital, removing it from our operating budget under the leadership of the commissioners and the Finance Committee as well, and looking at the advice we are receiving from our consultant, the Abrahams Group. So as the county is working closely, their last fiscal year, capital remained in the operating budget at the beginning of the process and was appropriated during the spring. This year, we hope to appropriate it now, and for FY23, we hope to appropriate capital during the fall, following the standard of some of our other constituent communities and more regularizing the budget schedule. And this capital budget proposal is part of the long-term capital plan developed by the Abrahams Group. The proposal before you is the same as it was previously, save for the elements that were very small that were left in the budget, which were removed at the request of the Finance Committee before your vote a few weeks ago on the regular operating budget. So before you, the total cost of the FY22 capital proposal is $1,109,895, and you can see where the funding sources are for that budget. Mr. Chairman.
Open for discussion. Mr. Polito.
Does this, the unappropriate balance, did that come from line items that weren't spent? Or that's from Richard Deeds money that was unanticipated extra coming in?
So the unappropriated balance is what was left over from FY20. 21, sorry, FY21. Will be
Count or that?
total.
How about the money, according to last year, the Richard took a lot of extra money that wasn't budgeted. Is that part of that money?
Yes, after the fiscal year, it goes into the unappropriated.
That's all, the excess money from the, is there.
After his correct, the 60%. Yeah, correct. After the revenue split.
On that, are we using all the money?
Oh, all of the unappropriated? No, and no.
My issue is, as I mentioned last couple of meetings, I like to put money in the stabilization fund for any day in case 3 or 4 years ago we had a problem, we had to take money out of that fund. I would like to see money go into that fund. Is there any money going into that fund this year? Other than the money we borrowed from last year to put it back this year.
Right.
Is there any additional money going in the fund from the budget?
One moment.
Do you have Joe D's
I
then?
mentioned last couple of meetings about
Have a Joe D.
a rainy day. 1 year we had to take money out of that fund to balance the budget. But now the county's good But some year it might not.
The one that shows the
The
total.
more we build it up, the better it's going to be long term.
The front one?
Is it the front one? Where? We do have an answer to that, I'm just trying to find it.
There is an opportunity to put more money in. We could do that at the next advisory board meeting. As you saw from the revenues, our revenues continue to outperform. So we will be able to report back to you in the fall, and we can, and as
This money for 2020 year,
that's FY21. Well, there is, to be clear, we don't segregate unappropriated balance. It just kind of rolls forward like free cash in the town. So there would be free cash available in the fall to do that, and that's very possible.
I want to think about long-term needs, and not just, we need capital needs right now, things to be fixed, but some year, you know, I remember 3-4 years ago, they had to go money out of the reserve funds to balance the budget. And if you don't put it back now, 3-4 years from now, we could have an issue. I want to make sure the county needs to stay solvent by putting
Yeah, we
on the
have-
side, so keeping employees, not lay them off. That's all I want to do. Capitalize, I have no problem purchasing, I just want to make sure the other side's covered.
Yeah, the point is well taken, and obviously that this capital kind of represents a year and a half's worth of capital. But the good news is that the housing market is good, and our revenues in those areas are up, and so we will continue to project sort of increases in the unexpended balance. That will be available.
On the last sheet here, we $1.3 million better this year than last year so far,
Yes.
and that's where you think some of the free cash is going to come from?
Correct, sir.
Out of that money?
Yes.
So the year before, put no money aside, but we're going to do it next year. Am I understanding right what you're saying?
Yes, and I think it's important to point out, as I mentioned before, the work of the Abrahams Group and our financial forecasting will allow us to not make these decisions in a vacuum and really inform how we move forward. Obviously, in any sort of budget, preparing for a rainy day is part of that. But we will, once the Abrahams Group work is finished, but by sort of the middle to the end of the summer,
You
um,
not done yet?
I believe it's a tentative July date, so they're almost done. And that will, again, help us to be able to inform those type of decisions we make. And a healthy unappropriated balance, a healthy reserve fund is a huge part of financial kind of health of a governmental institution. Yeah.
Dr. Charles.
Yeah. Mr. Polito, your comments are really well taken. I was just going to say, in the work that the Abrahams Group is doing in the Norfolk County financial policies, there is actually an expectation of a minimal amount that we would keep in our stabilization fund, as well as what we would keep in our unappropriated balance. And so I think your point is well taken, that if we're going to live by our policies, we will have to replenish what we take out of our stabilization fund and plan to do that. So, yeah, I think it's, and the percentages, I can't pull them off the top of my head, but they actually have marked out percentages that they think we should be setting aside for that. So I think that that's a really good point. Yeah. I think it's 10% for stabilization. Yeah, exactly. I think it's the same.
Mr. Ryan.
I'm going to fully support FY22 capital budget plan. I just want to make a couple comments. As I know there's plenty of capital work we need to do on the county infrastructure. A couple comments is I see a lot of the smaller type of expenditures in here, and I'm going to support it. I really hope going forward we're looking at some of the more structural deficiencies in the county, the buildings, the roofs, the boiler systems, the elevators, the ADA requirements that we have that are more the big ticket items. I know we have federal money coming into the county that needs to be given out to the cities and towns. I know the county should be taking a look at what they need for their capital items, and I think that if we look at spending some of that federal money, we shouldn't really be looking at spending it on reoccurring expenses that we're going to run out of money. We should look at it, I think it's ideal for looking at capital things we need to do in the county. So I would think, I'd really like to see a living document of capital needs throughout the county and how, over the next 5 years maybe, some of these bigger ticket items that we need to fix. I think this is a real golden opportunity for the county to do that. So just want to, when I see smaller budget things, I kind of think like we're trying to, everybody, what do you want, what do you want? And I'm not saying it's wrong, but I really think we need to take care of the roofs over on the buildings and, you know,
Yeah, you go ahead.
the infrastructure.
So I agree with you, and we do have a capital plan put in place for the next 10 years. And this year is our transitional year, so there were some items that were added to the capital that you won't see them again in the capital, but we needed to fund them somehow this year, and that's why you're seeing them under the FY22 capital plan.
Thank you for that clarification. Maybe that word gets out to all the internal stakeholders. That was kind of the plan, and the plan moving forward. That'd be wonderful.
Mr. Wright, I was just going to add, I think you're channeling the Abrams Group here, because there is a 10-year capital plan that's coming, and in the policies, there's a lot of direction to move forward with how we do our capital planning, including getting from the people who work in the county what we really need to do for these bigger projects, and anticipating what they would cost and how we would fund them. Yeah.
Through the chair, if you look at last comment, we're all here tonight at the jewel of Norfolk County, the President's Golf Course. You know, we say,
Whoa, whoa, whoa. What's the other jewel?
Taylor to the audience. So, this golf course is a jewel, and this needs some TLC here. You drive out tonight, look at the parking lot you're driving through when you drive out of the golf course tonight. It's in shambles. They could really use a new parking lot up here. You know, and I know they could use an irrigation system, and there's a lot of things they need up here.
Oh, Timmy Quinn.
Clubhouse is kind of pie in the sky.
No.
You know.
So thank you for bringing up the drive in here. I did notice that, and that is in one of the capital plans already. That's already identified in the capital plan. You're welcome.
Mr. Polito.
I seen in here that getting to the court. I know a few years ago, there was a lot of problems at the Quincy court. It's all, I mean, I haven't seen any in the last couple of years. You know, like the air conditioning was going, some other things were going to the Quincy court. I don't see any money going to that courthouse. A few years ago, it was almost in top shape. I just know what the status of that.
I'll have a Quincy man answer that.
I am Quincy. I can't do anything about it. I was born and bred, but I don't like to talk about the Quincy court, and I'll tell you why. It's the newest of our courts. It was built in 1972, and it's in the worst shape. So I don't want to disparage the architect or anything, but we have been informed, the latest was 5 weeks ago by the Commonwealth, that they intend to build a 16 courtroom facility on the same site. Number one. Number two, they explored many other sites. They worked with people. They worked with the mayor of Quincy. They kept us in the loop. What they told me last February, they repeated 5 weeks ago because of the year COVID, they lost another year. We're going to lose the Quincy court as an asset, but they cannot build a new building without owning it. Now, if I tell you it's 2 years, it's 5 years. We're trying very hard not to spend any money on a building that's going to be taken down. We've been it passed the general court. They're looking for the money, but COVID has really put them behind the 8 ball. A lot of people worked hard to get it to move to another site in Quincy, but the state said no. They're going to even take a street the side of it. But how long that's going to take, I don't know. I will tell you that the law is plain. They have to pay for it. Now, we all know that we're going to cooperate with the great Commonwealth, of course, but we're not going to give it away, and we're not going to walk away. We did spend, and I wish John McGowan was here, but he's not, sorry. Every summer, there's an issue in Quincy Court with the air conditioning, and we don't like to throw good money after bad. It's still working today as we speak. I check every day. We got our fingers crossed, and we did spend about $25,000 beefing it up, but we don't want to go in and do anything else. It's fairly clean. We have a good custodian group, and particularly there. And John and his people spend a lot of time there. So we're putting Band-Aids on it, but you're not going to see anything of major proportion there, because they're going to take it down. But we're not in the driver's seat. But they're not taking it down until they pay us for it, which we'll report. We're going to hire outside. I mean, we're going to have our county attorney handle it, but it's got to be appraised. And
Buy it from us?
I'm sorry, what?
Buy it from us, the land, the building? They have to purchase it from the county?
They got to reimburse the county for the building. They told us that, well, they told us that 2 years ago. They did it in Lowell, they call them justice centers now, and they're more than courts. They're everything. And they said, we don't build a justice center without owning the land.
Okay.
And then this year they got specific, but I think
Do we maintain,
it's 5 years away.
once it's built, do we have to maintain it, or they take it over?
They're taking over entirely.
We do not.
It means moving about 4 janitors out. We don't have any other employees there except janitors. However, we plow it, we spend this other money, but it's good, it's throwing money away if we have to do anything else. But you can still go there and it's still habitable, I know. But and I don't want to prolong this meeting at all, and congratulations to everyone, it's going fine, but I will mention that today, to Charlie's point, after rebidding it twice, we voted $1,096,000, give or take. I think it's $1,096,000 to bring the roof of the Superior Court in downtown Dedham. It's going to be painted and whatever else it needs to be done. We voted for the higher paint, because the commissioners insisted.
Just the court or Superior?
Superior. And we're worried about it, but there's no way that we're going to let that building, I mean, that is a landmark. It's not Quincy Court. And I don't want to talk about Quincy, but and we're taking care of that without putting it in the $1,109,000.
Where's it coming from?
Regular appropriation. We're putting in for some, recover some money, and the state's going to recover some money from the state too, but we have to front it. So it's going to start this summer. You're going to see a lot of work in downtown Dedham. It's all on the roof there.
We have our Dedham guy watch it.
I'll watch it, I'll be here.
Joe,
I'll make sure
Joe.
I'm going by it every day.
Helen, question.
The last repairs that were done on that were done by the employees of the county.
That had to be a long time ago.
No, it was only maybe 5 or 10 years ago.
On the roof? Well, the maintenance, well, John, of course, Superintendent McGowan was in the thing, in the loop, and we talk every day about it, but the company that won the bid, this is interesting, when we were doing our due diligence and checking their credentials, the architect of the Capitol called Nancy, the United States Capitol, which is very much on our news, to say that this company had done the Capitol in Washington at least 3 times in the last 30 years. It's a first-class company, but it's $1 million, and that's a great building. We're committed to it.
Is it gold?
It's not gold leaf, it's a gold paint. However, we could have saved money on the paint, but we didn't. We actually were looking at paint samples. Someone said paint it green, it'll be the same. Not the same. Huh? Okay, Paul wants a mic. I'm sorry.
Any other questions on the capital plan?
I just want to add a point of clarification, if that's okay.
Michelle?
I just want to add a point of clarification. We've talked about the financial policies with Abraham's Group. So the Abraham's Group is close to concluding this project. Currently, the financial policies have been handed out to the commissioners to review, and the Abraham's Group will be reviewing the financial policies with the commissioners next week. So we are, right, and then after the commissioners vote on the financial policies, Abraham's Group will present it to the advisory board. So we are following the process. We are at the conclusion of this project, and we are hoping to have recommendations by the end of July, beginning of August, for our next steps in years to come. So I just wanted to update you all on that.
Mr. Ryan?
Through the chair, and that's all going to be on our website. And I think transparency is wonderful, and I'm sure you folks do as well.
Yes, so we have been trying to update everyone on our website, and we also are in the process of updating our website to a new forum. So that will be coming soon. I'm not sure when it's coming, but we are in the process in FY21 to update our website.
Have you added Dick Stady's picture yet?
We have, right away. That was the first thing we did.
Motion on the capital plan.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Walsh? From Westwood. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? So voted. Is there anything else that anybody would like to bring up? Yes.
Foxborough, I just have a question. If somebody could update us on the timing of the ARP disbursement to the towns.
That would be a Bill Buckley question.
Can we get a brief answer on that? Because I know there's lengthy discussions going on with the commissioners on that, and it's in negotiations, I believe.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I have never said anything brief in my entire 35 years on this planet. I will tonight. I will furnish the advisory board when I get home this evening with the second letter that the commissioners have sent to your select board chairs, kind of explaining their process. The commissioners are at a point now where we're dialoguing with our colleagues in the other counties. The crux of it is we want to make sure that we can meet the needs of the county by also, and maximize the amount of money that flows back to the cities and towns. The most central question is the mechanics of disbursement and what is the cheapest, most efficient way to do that while also dealing with the needs of the county. So
Do you have a ballpark time estimate?
the money has to be distributed by 2026. I hope to get it before that, but it's coming out in two tranches. They're called tranches. The first is available now. There is no limit on when the county can apply to receive that. The second is a year from now. The funds are split in half.
It's 50/50?
Correct.
So 50% is available, will be available soon?
Soon, yes, the county can take ownership of it, and the other 50 will be available a year.
Does soon mean this fiscal year?
Correct, sir. And importantly, there is community money. There is money going directly to the cities and towns from that bill as well. That is coming very soon as well. If it is not,
Take this on the website?
we will. This will be a very exhaustive process. I'm excited about it.
Mr. Beckerman and then Ms. Vigiletti.
Just real
You,
quick,
Giletti.
though, on the disbursement, you said there's two disbursements, first and second tranche. Is the second tranche payable upon expenditure of the first? Where they're splitting up the money to
You don't have to spend all of the first one to take the second one. They're just distributing it in a bifurcated fashion.
Is there a spending, so if the first tranche comes out, like, let's say in 2022, is there a time frame it needs to be spent by? So there actually could be a contingency of the second payment on the first expenditure.
No, the three, Mr. Chair, all of the funds must be expended by 2026. It's a 3-year, 4-year, 2024, I'm sorry, I'm hot. 2024, so you have 3 years to do it. But it's just the way that the Treasury is dispersing the money itself. So we don't have to spend it all before we get it. It's just how it's coming. And it is coming to the cities and towns in the same manner. So Avon is getting half and half, and the state as well. Well, it's a very small amount, but it's a great town.
I just had a question is, has the county already applied for the funding?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the county has not, and I think it's mostly because we're in dialogue with the Baker administration about the mechanics of it, whether it is even permissible to say not apply. One course of action that some of the other counties are looking at is to not apply, ask this, if possible, have the money flow to the state as it does in the non-extant counties, and then get some of our needs taken care of by state, the state's portion of that money. However, just this week, the legislature has decided that the state's portion is now, as you and I both know as State House alums, it is now subject to appropriation or will be very soon. So that puts a very significant wrench into it. We know that Barnstable has applied. Dukes, as of our last speaking with them, has not yet, and Plymouth, I do not believe has. Barnstable has, yes, but Plymouth has not yet. They're sort of in the same boat, and they're really of the same mindset. Is we want to make sure that we can maximize what we do with this money. Oh, sure.
Does the Norfolk Aggie receive ESSER funds?
Walpole, just a quick question. Does this body have a vote on any of that you just talked about, or does the commissioners make all the decisions?
Strictly commissioners at this point. Strictly commissioners.
Correct. It's the commissioners at this point.
One second, Mr. Polito.
A lot of town managers, I think, who speak we spoke to a time.
Yeah.
They're looking for when the money's coming out. I mean, you know, you said it a few months, but, you know, they would rather see fiscal 22, which is coming in now, not any later, because they're trying to do their budgets too. They know if $500,000 coming, they can do their planning also. So, I mean, most town managers have contacted us, looking for money. And some of them don't have confidence it's gonna come soon than later. And that's the issue that we're hearing. Because I'm hearing, and I know it's saying the same thing.
I believe the commissioners have heard that also, so they're weighing in it. They are being pressured daily. Mr. Stady.
Yeah, Mr.
Commissioner.
Chairman. So, we're all sensitive to the fact at the local level that you need the money, you want the money. We absolutely hear you loud and clear. We're getting it from everybody. We're working very hard on this, and honestly, every week on our agenda, if you look at it, every week, the American Rescue Plan ad nauseum is on the agenda, and we hear from Bill the latest updates. The problem is, it's a moving target. One week we're hearing one thing, one week we're hearing another. They keep changing the rules of the game. And the primary thing, to protect us as a county, we're accountable. And if we spend one penny, we're accountable to the federal government. It's a stance. So the first thing we need to do is set up an accounting system. And we're looking at that, and we're talking about that. Do we hire someone, or do we have to have a firm like Plymouth did with CARES Act? Those are the things we're looking at. As soon as we get those things ascertained, as soon as we get a really good handle on it, we're going to move forward. And as the commissioners, I'm speaking for all of them, feel, the lion's share of the money will go to you. We intend to keep a little bit, which we're entitled to, for things that we need to fix. What those are limited, but there are some things. You know yourself, if you look at the act, it can broadband, infrastructure and water, things like that. You have that, we don't. We have broadband issues at the Aggie. But we're going to look at all those things, and we're going to make the best decision possible. Stay tuned. If you have any questions, hit Billy, hit us. We'll be glad to talk to you, or even talk to your boards if you need it. All right? That's all. That's all we can say. And we're being as transparent as we can. All right? That's it. Thank you.
Any further questions? There being none, at this time, I want to take a moment. This has been just an unbelievable year. And serving as chairman, I wouldn't have wished this on anybody in here to be chairman of the advisory board this year, nor would I want anybody other than Joe Red to be chairman of the finance committee. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to have Mr. Reardon stand up, Mr. Beckerman from Avon, Amy Figiletti, please, Dr. Childs. These are the members of the finance committee, other than Carl Baldoff, who's not here with us this evening. The number of meetings they put in this year was absolutely phenomenal. They met every week bi-weekly with the commissioners live or on Zoom. And I would like to recognize Helen Donahue, because Helen stepped down midway during the year, which is when Mr. Beckerman went on. I'm pleased to have made that appointment. Amy Figiletti went on in place of Owen Duggan, who had to leave this year for personal reasons from the Finance Committee. So we owe great gratitude to the Finance Committee. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the commissioners for their support with the Finance Committee and working well with the committee this year. I'd like to thank Tammy Quinn from the school. I thought she was going to be here tonight to recognize her because she's leaving us this year. She did a tremendous job at the school while she was there as superintendent. Rick Fitzpatrick, who was bearing the brunt of the beatings from everybody on the budget. Rick Fitzpatrick did a great job. Michelle Labadini, she's a short timer. She's got 2 days left as the interim director. Michelle stepped in and did a terrific job. Bill Buckley, who's never turned down a microphone. Bill has done a terrific job. Phil Iantosker is not here with us. I just convey our congratulations to him for the job he did this year. He did a great job on all of our meetings, keeping the minutes and keeping track of us. I think he did a great job. And all the employees of the county, the golf course, Carl Miner, Dana, the people here, all the department heads within the county, all the employees in the county, just, we owe them a lot. This county is respected by everybody in county government. It's always going to be strong, and it's because of a great advisory board. You've all done a terrific job. And I don't think I've left anybody out, so thank you all very much. I'll take a motion to adjourn and enjoy
Chair.
it.
Mr. Chair, personal privilege, if I may. To my friend from Braintree, you are hitting the nail right on the head. Paul, you and I have known each other for a long time. In fact, although I look as old as Paul, his son, Patrick, was a year behind me in grammar school at St. Mary of the Hills in Milton. So we go back a long way. And every time I go to La Scala, I see Paul right there. So I don't know if you know that about Paul. A lot of people don't.
Had a lot of meetings there.
When I was invited to participate in the executive committee, I met with Paul, and that was just about 2 years ago now. And since that time, with your leadership, this advisory board has moved the needle in a way that has tremendously affected the county, the residents of the county, and the trajectory moving forward for the county in light of all of the different pieces that the governor has talked about and other people about the lack of structure in county government. I can tell you now, with your leadership through the advisory board, with the collaboration, sometimes adversarial work with the commissioners, this county is going places. And Paul Connors has been our leader, and 30 years you've been on this? Is that true?
Doc?
You beat me now. I think you got it.
30 years of commitment to Norfolk County, never mind the town of Randolph and every other organization. Paul Connors is someone that exemplifies public service, and Paul, thank you for all you have done. This has been a tremendous opportunity to work with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Motion to adjourn, Doc? Oh, you can't make that.
I can't make that motion.
Stoughton makes the motion. Joe McCrisky.
I just got one comment. Don't get to do it often, but on behalf of the town of Stoughton, I just want to thank the county staff. We had an issue with a right-of-way that's been worked on recently. For some reason, it became the big dig of Stoughton, you know? And the call was made to the county officials. They acted on it ASAP. And we're going to take a piece of land that was blighted and a small piece that was owned by the town and make it tax-producing property. So I'd like to thank the staff of the county for everything they did to help the town of Stoughton in that action.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks again. We are adjourned.